Well, hello and welcome to the Anne Phelan Scoop. I'm Phelan McAleer.
And I'm Anne McElhenney.
And this is a special insert. Yeah, so he had just recorded the Anne and Phelan Scoop podcast, and then the news broke about the SCOTUS leak, the leak from the Supreme Court about Roe versus Wade. And as you'll hear from the podcast as you go on, we're very involved in the whole abortion debate at the moment. We're doing the Gosnell play in New York at the moment. As you know, we did the Gosnell movie, we did the Gosnell book. We probably know more about abortion than 99% of most Americans or people in the world. So this leak has come out. The Supreme Court is going to overturn Roe. I think it's very important to say what it's going to do and what it's not going to do.
That's a very good point. Yes.
Yeah. So it's not going to outlaw abortion, right? Which is an interesting, for all these pro-life, in my opinion, for these pro-life judges, to not outlaw abortion is interesting. They're going to send it back to the states. So they're going to allow the people of California to have abortions up to 9 months. Sorry, it's all very breaking news here and trying to get it right. So, and I think even some of these states want to have a law where a baby can be let die after it's born. So this is not the end of abortion in America, if the leak is true. Maybe, like Churchill says, it's the beginning of the end, but maybe not. Maybe it's the beginning of the end in some places, but it's the beginning of wider abortion laws and more liberal abortion laws in many states as a reaction. Anne?
Yeah, and I think there's something very disturbing about the fact that the leak happened in the first place. I mean, it's never happened in the history of the Supreme Court, so we're in very new territory here. It's obvious that people who are pro-abortion are in favor of this leak because they are trying to put pressure on the justices to change their minds. Basically, this leak obviously it's dated from February, so who knows what the deliberations have done in the meantime and how, that decision, where exactly it is. But there's obviously a sense in which people who are very pro-abortion are nervous and want to create difficulty here. So,
yes.
Some people are saying maybe this is going to force the Supreme Court to issue the ruling sooner. Who knows? We don't know.
Yeah.
But certainly,
look, and there is form here. There is form here. John Roberts famously was going to strike down Obamacare during the Obama regime administration. Sorry, and he came under such pressure from the Washington people, from the elites, that he changed his mind at the last moment. And don't forget, these people are human beings. Not all of them are rock-ribbed Republicans. And I always get worried when I hear someone described as a rock-ribbed Republicans because, it's very painful to get hit in the ribs and it makes you rethink a lot. So when let's see if they're tested now, will they be able to stand up to the mob and stick with this ruling? It'll be very interesting to see. As I say, this is not going to outlaw abortion. This is, and that's a long road. And abortion is still loved by many of the elites.
Well, I think you use the phrase actually, Phelan. It's still fashionable, and I think that's possibly something that the pro-life movement needs to be working on, is making abortion unfashionable, unthinkable, and unfashionable.
Yeah, but the way to make it unfashionable is to tell the truth about it. If people knew what abortion was, what goes on in an abortion clinic, and that was the thing. That's why we're doing the Gosnell play in New York, is because it takes you behind the doors of the clinic. There's an abortion comedy on. And I talk about this later. There's an abortion comedy on in Manhattan at the same time, but they never go inside the doors of the abortion clinic. They never talk about the abortion, and that's the thing they will not talk about. Because
you make the point. Yeah, you make the very good point, Phelan, that apparently there's meant to be a national conversation going on about abortion, but the only thing that they don't talk about in this national conversation ever is actually abortion. That's the one thing that they don't talk about. So, I mean, I think today everyone's going to be talking about abortion, but whether or not they're going to be talking about the details of it, I doubt very much the pro-abortion advocates are going to start giving that kind of information. That's why our play is so relevant right now. But I think we should go on with the rest of the show.
Well, just to let people know, if they want more information about the play, go to gosnellplay.com. Look, the forces of lies are working overtime to try and destroy this play. We've lost the theatre, we've lost actors, but We'll go on now with the rest of the podcast that we had recorded before the news broke. So whatever we said going forward, it's a very interesting record of pre-SCOTUS. And I stand over everything I say, I think. So
yes.
Let's go to that now.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Anne McElhenney.
And I'm Phelan McAleer.
And welcome to the Anne and Phelan Scoop in 2 different locations. By the way, I'm going to have to quickly say that we've got a cat in the background behaving. Hopefully he'll behave well, by the way. I'm hoping he'll behave well. Is he behaving well, Phelan? I can see him. You can see him.
Yeah, he's fine. He's fine. I'm keeping a sharp eye on him. And
okay.
I can always blur him out anyway. The editor.
Yes, if things get out of hand.
If he gets inappropriate. Yeah.
So it's week 111 of the 2 weeks to flatten the curve lockdown. And Phelan and I, as you probably noticed, are in 2 different jurisdictions. Is that correct, Phelan?
No, a jurisdiction is a separate legal jurisdiction. I suppose states.
States can have different jurisdictions, by the way, about lots of things.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. Talking of which, actually. Boom, boom.
Boom, boom.
I used to have a friend who believed that it wasn't cheating on his girlfriend if it happened in a different jurisdiction.
Yeah, it's very good film. Luckily it was a friend and not.
Which was quite useful because this guy lived in Northern Ireland, so he could just head south the border.
Only a couple of hours away. It's a week 111 of the 2 weeks to flatten the curve lockdown. But according to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, I think the curve is well flattened, unless you're in the serving class.
No, there was masks for the servants, but for the gilded people. I have to say, great thing about Trump was how he destroyed the White House Correspondents' Dinner. He just made it. In fact, I don't think they televised it when he was there. He just refused to go. It lost all its luster. They lost all their luster. There was something kind of look, we're relevant to it, but it didn't feel like the old days where it was like it was the only show in town. Now it was like you were almost as cool if you didn't go to it. Actually, this time, what I particularly like was Greg Gutfeld. He didn't go, but he live tweeted it as if he was there with increasingly ridiculous things, many of which probably will prove to be true. So what else is on the show? I'm, as you can see, I'm in New York. You can't see that. I'm in New York, Manhattan, and they really don't like free speech here. Hear about the latest attempt. Now, the latest upon the latest. They've tried to shut us down about 3 times, shutting down the Gosnell play in New York. They really don't want truth. They really don't want for people to hear the truth. So we'll hear more about that. And it is sad that they're shutting down everyone. But, sometimes it's really sad when they shut down a deeply original, truly radical voice. And he's just been warned and shown and taken the message what he can and can't be radical about. And the world of theatre and the world of literature and the world of movie making is going to be a lot poorer because of that. And of course, the left tell you there's no cancel culture. But we bring you the true story behind that famous cartoon. Put up the cartoon there.
This is a cartoon. This is a cartoon that Elon Musk he tweeted this out this past weekend, and it's just really interesting to see what happened. It's not his own tweet. It's not his own cartoon, but we'll bring you that story. Kind of extraordinary. A cartoon that went super, super viral this past weekend.
And the story behind it.
Yes, exactly.
And
we have a funny story at the end about cancel culture coming to a place that the person who got cancelled never imagined they would visit her.
Yes, and
does that sound like
her with a capital H? And,
nice. Yes.
But
let's start today with the massive news here about what's the latest assault on our play film.
The Hollywood producer J.J. Abrams is bringing this play to New York, an abortion comedy. And look, I think people should go and see both, right? I've been to see the abortion comedy. It's neither comedic nor you've been to see it as well. It's neither about abortion nor is it comedic. But each to his own. However, our play is the truth about abortion. It's a trial. But anyway, the theater threw us out a week before we're supposed to go curtains up. Less than 24 hours before the play was supposed to open, 2 actors walked out, destroyed any chance we had of having previews at the weekend. But we recast. We're going to have 2 actors. We've got 2 actors. They're rehearsing every day. And the play is going to open on tomorrow, Thursday, May the 5th, at the Chain Theatre go to gosnellplay.com if you want to get tickets, if you want to help, donate, please, anything. Send it to your friends in New York. We need a massive crowd on Thursday, the 5th of May, because the left, they want this to fail. So let's make sure it doesn't fail. And, you know, go ahead, Anne.
And, you know, a lot of you might be wondering why exactly there's so much opposition to our play, why so many people don't want this play to be shown, why people don't want us to be successful at getting this story out, which is, as Phelim has described, is just verbatim. It's just the words from a courtroom of what was said during the Gosnell trial. And, you know, maybe I have a clue about why there are people who don't want this. And I thought one of the things we could do is, we've mentioned to you before, we're working on another project. So we did some recording of some of these pieces using actors here in Los Angeles. And I thought it'd be good to just watch a little bit of this. Now, it's not, you know, it wasn't meant to ever, you know, to be looked at in a way, but and the camera, whatever, you know, it's all dark and everything. But I think just to hear these actors reading the words from the trial, let's have a listen.
So let's just be clear here. This is actually from the trial transcripts. It's from the grand jury transcripts. These are words that were actually spoken in court or under the legal proceedings. But boy, are they dramatic, and boy, are they truthful.
And the first one, and exactly, and the first one that I want everyone to listen to, and I just think that this is maybe the reason why we've had such a difficulty, is from an abortion doctor. So a legal abortion doctor who was brought to the Gosnell trial to explain what a legal abortion is like. Let's listen to that right now.
From what I've seen, and you can correct me, you obviously know more about it than I do, the evacuation process can be done where tools are used and the pieces are pulled out, right?
Right.
And that can be, as we know, up to 24 weeks or 23/6, as you would say, in your hospital?
Yes.
And that's a process where tools are actually gone up into the uterus and basically pulling parts out, and you may pull out an arm or a leg or some portion of that.
Right.
Until you've successfully evacuated the entire pieces of the fetus, correct?
Correct.
Would you ever do a procedure without checking to make sure that the heartbeat is stopped?
We always do ultrasound, under ultrasound guidance. So we would confirm that there was no heartbeat.
If a baby is moving, based on your background, training, experience, if a baby is still moving inside the mother just prior to a procedure, is that baby still alive?
I would use an ultrasound to confirm that it was or was not. I would be concerned that it was still alive, yes.
You said this has never happened, but what is your obligation if, in fact, a baby is born alive?
It depends on the gestational age, but just, you know, as a human being, you would want to comfort, at least, comfort care. You know, really just keep it warm, you know. It will eventually pass.
I mean, extraordinary. And of course, that piece ends, Phelim, with the description of comfort care, which I think for you and me, this was such a shock during the Gosnell trial, that this is legal in America, that you can neglect a child to death. Legally.
I think there was a huge, I mean, Gosnell was charged with murdering babies born alive. And here was the prosecution's star witness saying, it's murder if you take some action to kill them. But if you let them die of neglect and dehydration, then it's perfectly legal. Even these liberal, pro-life, pro-choice journalists who were in the courtroom, they couldn't believe this was being said at all. And don't forget, goes back to what Ralph Northam says, you know, about a baby should be kept comfortable. He let the cat out of the bag there. That's why the pro-choice movement, Planned Parenthood, were the first people to ask for Ralph Northam to resign after he made those comments, and we know why.
Another piece, I'm just going to, and that was a longer piece, but these are two very short pieces, two more pieces I wanted to share with people. The first one is, you know, a little bit disturbing, and the second one, I hang on for the second one. The first one is Jimmy Johnson was a janitor working at the Gosnell clinic, and he took to the stand. And again, Phelim makes this point all the time. What's very powerful about a court case is people are under oath, under pain of perjury. They are told they have to tell the truth. They could go to prison if they don't. So you're hearing people telling the truth about what they know, what they saw. And we're going to listen right now to Jimmy Johnson, the janitor, who is being questioned by Ed Cameron Ed Cameron, by the way, the assistant district attorney in this case, who unfortunately died last year, quite a young man, actually. And we're going to hear from Ed Cameron again at the very end of this piece. Not at the end of this piece. He'll be the third piece. And I do want you to hang on for that, even though some of this is hard to listen to. So let's listen to Jimmy Johnson.
Did you notice problems with the bathrooms?
Well, it stopped up.
How often would that happen, and what would you do?
Sometimes it happened twice a week. Sometimes it happened once a week. I had to go outside and plunge outside.
What would happen when you do that?
Well, at first, nothing would really happen. But later on, I plunged and some particles came up.
Particles? What kind of particles?
Looks like it's parts.
Parts of what?
Like an arm or something like that, I don't know, leg.
So did you talk with the doctor after the arms started coming up or the body parts out in the street?
I told him that I think it was baby parts came up there, and he asked me what I did with it, so I told him I did nothing with it.
Now maybe you understand why so many people don't want this testimony to be heard on a stage in New York. The very last piece, and I think this is important to hear this is, I mentioned earlier, Ed Cameron, the assistant district attorney in the Gosnell trial, died very sad last year. And as I said, some of this testimony, you're going to hear even more of it in another project we're working on, which we've kept secret up until now. But I just thought it would be really good to listen to this piece from Ed Cameron. This is Ed Cameron finishing his closing, trying to bring the jury to an understanding of what has happened here, bringing all the pieces together. And in this particular case, Ed Cameron's talking about the baby that became so central to this trial, baby boy A. Let's listen to that now.
I had a dog that got sick. And do you know what they did with the dog that was sick? I took it to the vet. And they took it into a room and they gave it a shot to go to sleep. And then, when it was asleep, they gave it a shot to cause it to die. These babies didn't even get that. My dog was treated better than he treated babies and women. And that's because he didn't care. I'm assuming you all followed the judge's admonition and you haven't been following what's been going on in the world. But there's been a lot of courageous things going on in the world. Up in Boston, there was Officer Sean Collier, who was killed in standing up to the bombers and trying to stop them. And in Texas, we had Captain Kenny Harris, who was head of the first responders. He responded to where that fertilizer factory was going up to try to save people. For years, we've been trying to find out what courage is. And when we see it, we honor it. What courage basically comes down to as human beings is to protect the life of others, to go out of your way to save others. When a baby comes out of its mother and it moves and it breathes and it's alive, you have to do the courage. You have to do the right thing. You have to protect it. One of the many things that we do in life is we honor the dead. We treat them with respect. My dog was cremated, and I have the ashes now. What did he do? He put them in limeade containers. He put them through the garbage disposal. He put them in the freezer. He doesn't even have the basic humanity to treat them appropriately after he killed them.
So it's tough stuff, right? But there is, as Phelim makes that point all the time, there's something so powerful in the actual words of the people who were there in the trial, the witnesses, but also people like the assistant district attorney who, had this life-changing experience when they did this trial and learned all these truths. Yeah. So this might be an indicator of why we're having such difficulties. But again, as Phelim said, we're opening on Thursday night. We'd love to see you there, by the way. We have a special treat on Thursday. Is that right, Phelim? Can we? That's right. Well, that's a funny way to put it. But go on.
Jim Wood, who's the detective who did so much to bring Gosnell to justice. He it was a routine and drug investigation, and he got interested and realized there was something not right here. He found out about an immigrant woman dying and got really interested. And it was his little nose and his little bit of curiosity that brought down America's biggest serial killer. So Jim Wood is going to come and do a Q&A after Thursday night's performance. So if you're in New York, if you have any friends in New York, you won't want to miss this. They can go and get tickets on gosnellplay.com. That's gosnellplay.com.
And if you can't come, and you're listening to this and you think that the work that we're doing, exposing these stories, particularly at this extraordinary historical moment in American history, with the Supreme Court deciding on whether or not to overturn Roe v. Wade, maybe you would give us a donation and be part of this. Yeah. And people, by the way, donate. I was at a speech recently in Florida, and somebody gave me a check for $5. This is what happens. But also people give checks for a lot more than that. But we can't keep the lights on here without your help. So we're very, very grateful, by the way, to everyone who does contribute. Thousands of you, by the way.
Yeah. So go to gosnellplay.com. If you can't make it on Thursday, by the way, it's also on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then it's on the next weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as well. So there's lots of opportunities to see it. Check gosnellplay.com for the details. Hope to see you there, and do come up and introduce yourself. I'll be there for all the performances, and we'll look forward to see you there.
Thank you.
Okay. So talking of
what else,
Phelim,
is happening?
Yes. Well, I don't know if anybody out there has seen 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, which is a movie which was nominated by an Oscar. It's by Martin McDonagh, who's Irish-English. He's a brilliant writer, a brilliant playwright. He's like the enfant terrible of the theater world, of the movie world. He's fallen out with everyone. He's had feuds with David Mamet. He's had feuds with... He punched James Bond, Daniel Craig, at an award show. A good Irishman, And there's nothing he won't say. And boy, he says it. And sometimes you find yourself gasping. And, 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. It's a very, very interesting show, a movie. And, there's a kind of a racist cop in it who goes through this kind of redemptive process and ends up, I won't spoil it for anyone, but the woman who's there, who's the white woman, she's not a very nice person. She goes through a redemptive process. And for a movie that is about the murder of a woman, and you don't find out, we're still wondering who murdered the woman. It's actually quite uplifting in the end what happens, and so therefore the left came for it, like crazy, and he got enormous abuse because he doesn't, the racist, the kind of racist cop at the beginning isn't condemned, isn't cast out, is allowed to redeem himself, is allowed to think again, is allowed, and even is allowed to make fun of the racist police, and even his boss is allowed to make fun of the leftist racists. And and even Frances, the only person in the movie I think who uses the N-word is the heroine, Frances McDormand. So it's all twisted. So Martin McDonagh got enormous abuse for that. But he's Martin McDonagh. Like, come on, this is Martin McDonagh. I mean, he's brave, he's radical, he's transgressive. Then I'm in New York, and he's got a play on here called Hangman, and I was thinking, okay, it's about the end of the death penalty. I thought, okay, hopefully he's done something interesting. Then I read an interview with him in Vanity Fair, and basically, here's what they say. He got so much blowback about having a redeeming character and having Frances McDormand use the N-word and all that. He says he's now going to shy away from writing about racism in the future. I'm coming out of that whole 3 billboards thing a little wounded, I guess. I think it's an anti-racist piece. But once he thought it was anti-racist. But once you get a little wounded, you say, I'll just write about something else. So Martin McDonagh has been shut up. Martin McDonough has been cancelled. Bit by bit, they are narrowing what you can and what you can't talk about, and what the best voices, and at the end, he says, I've still got some bite in me, and I'm still going to insult people. And he insults David Mamet. And wow, well, very brave there, Martin, because everyone else is insulting David Mamet. But this is the way the society is going, where the radical voices, where the voices that tell the truth or even tell the lies or just say something that makes you think, they're saying to you, you have to keep in your lane. You're not allowed to talk about that. You're not allowed to have characters who say that. So this is how art dies, not with a bang, but with a whimper. And that's why we're bringing the Gosnell play to New York. And that's why they want to shut us down, because we're not being like Martin McDonough. We're saying, we're sticking up for it. And
yeah, you're right. You're right. And it's like, they came for us with the movie. We've had a lot of this kind of these attacks in the past, and we're not going to back down. We're just going to keep going no matter what. And what's interesting over the weekend, I just thought it was a good segue from what you just said about what's happened to the left. The left were so famous for being like, they loved free speech, and the more outrageous the free speech was, the more they loved it. Over the weekend, Elon Musk tweeted out a cartoon by Colin Wright that Colin Wright had created a few years ago. And it's basically, him, and it was something he did for himself to try and understand what had happened over the last few years. So basically you have him, there he is, so you have conservative, and then you have the center, then you have the left, and basically there he is, close to the center, but a definite leftist, definitely on the left. Then 2012 comes along, he gets closer to the center. The right stays kind of where they were, but the left are running further and further into the left. And then it comes to 2021, and he has himself, the center, basically the center never moved, the right never moved, but the left moved so far to the left that he now finds himself on the right. Have I got that right, Philip? Yeah, that's right. And of course, it's good to know who Colin Wright is, and what happened to him was he's an evolutionary biologist. Oh yeah, it's incredible, this story.
Who just refused to say that there are many genders, who just refused to say that being a man and being a woman is not a biological thing, that it's somehow a societal construct. He's going, no, there's actual biology. I'm an evolutionary biologist. I think I know a bit about this. And in the end, he was unable to continue working in academia, because he would not say that being a man and being a woman is a biological matter, not a social matter.
Extraordinary.
And he was chased out of academia, and that's why.
But over the weekend, that's an incredible story. And that's kind of the background to what happened to him. And what's really amazing then over the weekend, right? So Elon Musk, of course, who has 90 million, I think more than 90 million followers on Twitter. And I have to say, I love Twitter. I think it's an amazing town hall and a great marketplace for ideas. I think it's really extraordinary. But so over the weekend, and this guy, by the way, it's really funny. This guy, the cartoonist Colin Wright, no one told him this was going to happen. Like Elon Musk didn't get in touch with him, right? Elon Musk obviously came across the cartoon, tweeted it out, and it went off the charts. A million people, I think, so far have retweeted it. And of course, the left are up in arms over this. They're hating this. So the Washington Post, by the way, so Greg Sargent at the Washington Post called the comic silly. He called this this piece of this little piece of comic, he said it was silly charge, and it was has been brutally debunked. And then another colleague at the Washington Post, Philip Bump, described it as simply wrong and an obvious exaggeration. And actually Mr. Bump, this is me reading actually from the Wall Street Journal, Mr. Bump even provided a series of actual silly charts showing the average ideological score, whatever, of people. So basically, they answered this little comic strip that this guy had created. They answered it with all kinds of, data that they had. And he says, I think it's really good what he says, what Chris Wright said. He says, debunking a cartoon with a chart is like answering a love poem with a syllogism, which I thought was very smart. So this is, it's relevant to us because I'm old enough to remember when the left really loved free speech and loved, one memory I have in my mind so clearly was, I remember going to university in Dublin, and I remember in Trinity College, I didn't go to Trinity College, but I remember being just 17 or whatever in Dublin, and Trinity College had that guy, Phelim, you'll probably remember his name, the famous guy who said the Holocaust never happened, the Holocaust denier. David Irvine, right? He came to Trinity. And I can remember the people justifying him coming. And the justification was, let's hear everything. Let's have all the ideas, the good ones and the bad ones, all out in the marketplace, and let's have a battle. Let's have a battle with ideas, you know. And if you've got a bad idea, the best way to destroy a bad idea is to put it right out there and have people who are reasonable and logical and rational come and attack it. But now we're not allowed that. And as I just thought it was kind of interesting when I saw that over the weekend, I just thought extraordinary what happened to him, and extraordinary, you know, given the context of us with this play, which is just verbatim. It is just what people said in a courtroom. But my God, is it fascinating? My God, is it, you know, it's like a car wreck. It's like you can't look away. And it's hard. It's hard to watch it sometimes. But it's life-altering, and it's really important. The jury had to sit and listen to this. The jury had to deliberate with this. And I think it's important that America, who is deliberating some of the most important decisions ever to come in front of the people, I mean, it doesn't get more serious, really, than this abortion issue. I think let's hear everything. Let's hear everything. So please, we need more information, not less.
Please, so please go to gosnellplay.com, buy tickets, send it to your friends in New York, send a link to your friends in New York.
Please,
we need a crowd, because I'll tell you, J.J. Abrams and his play over just down the road from us, actually, it's getting crowds.
And I think I had said
actors are not walking out, theaters are not canceling the booking. You know, the world is parting for them.
And I realized, Philip, we did promise people that we would give a little review of that one-woman show of J.J. Abrams' one-woman show this week.
As I said, a lot of you know, you learn a lot about CVS's, and you learn a lot about this woman's life and her comedy. But I tell you, there's not much comedy in it, and there's nothing about abortion in it.
There's basically nothing about abortion. She does compare an aborted baby to a cockroach at one stage. And she does make a lot of disparaging noises about Missouri. You know, the elitism is not very far away at any moment in the piece.
It's dripping.
It really is. It's really horrible. We will actually, I am very sorry, this week has been kind of crazy, but we will at a later date give a much more in-depth analysis and review of what she said with quotes, because we took notes. And so we have notes of things that she actually said. And I think it'd be good for people to hear how J.J. Abrams, Ilana Grazer, and all of these people got themselves together to try and find some humor in abortion. And by the way, it's really important again to say, we are all in favor of them having their abortion comedy. We just think we also should be able to have our piece of drama, which is a piece of drama based on actual testimony. So, you know, but we want to end the show today, by the way.
Talking about cancellations.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a couple of cancellations. Sometimes, you know, cancellations aren't all that bad. So Netflix, whose share price has fallen by like 400% in 6 months. They have axed the series they'd ordered, cartoon series from Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. It was called Pearl, and it's about a little girl who got inspiration from meeting famous women from throughout history. She's a little time traveling woman. God, it sounds terrible. And it was going to be executive produced by Meghan and Harry, and it was going to be, the creative director was David Furnish, whose claim to fame is that he's married to Elton John. So what could possibly go wrong? Boring worthy stuff from Meghan Markle and Harry, who love themselves. No one loves them more than themselves. And it's going to be creatively produced by Elton John's husband. What could possibly go wrong? I think it probably should have been cancelled anyway. Now, then there was the other cancellation news. I'm sure everyone out there will be very sad to hear that the Obamas have been cancelled by Spotify. Spotify have not renewed their podcast deal with Spotify. But
do you think it's possible, Phelim? Do you think it's possible people weren't listening to the Obama's podcast?
No, that's not true. That's not true because Michelle Obama was #1 podcast across. Of course, the numbers were all fixed, and But also, one of the problems is both the Obamas and Meghan and Harry have not produced any product. I mean, Michelle did a podcast. A couple of episodes. Obama did 6 episodes talking to Bruce Springsteen, and these are and Harry and Meghan are apparently filming a documentary, Heart of Invictus, but that's about him and his games. There's not that's just somebody else doing it for them. I mean, they have not produced any original content. Maybe they're too busy. Maybe they're too lazy. Maybe they thought they
But I think you said something very interesting there, because, why would Spotify, by the way, which is a business and they've got shareholders and, trying to make a profit, why would you cancel a show that's popular? Why would you cancel somebody that's really popular if everyone really loves Michelle Obama? And it struck me over the weekend, funny, I was speaking to a young friend of mine, I think would be politically on the left, I'm fairly sure, a young man, and I was explaining to him about the New York Times bestseller list and how I said to him, and he's all into computers, of course, he's all very tech savvy guy. I said to him, how do you think the New York Times comes up with their bestseller list? And of course, he was absolutely appalled to discover that it's curated, when it doesn't need to be curated, when the raw numbers are available easily on computers. But what also struck me then after he had gone, by the way, I was reading the New York Times over the weekend, and they had, by the way, they have these, I love lists, by the way, and I know, Philip, you love lists and top 10s, whatever. But they had a thing where they were talking about the 30 best, books you can listen to on Audible, like the 30 best in all of history, basically, right? Now, obviously, Audible books are going on for about a decade, but there's a lot of content out there, an enormous amount of content out there. And among the 30 books, and of course, and to look at the list of what they've chosen, it was super, 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 super worthy. But a lot of the books were very recognizable, the names, But in the middle of it, they had Becoming. They had the Michelle Obama book. I haven't read it. I'll be honest with you. I haven't read the book. But what I thought was interesting was, of all the books, in all the world, they chose her book. And I think what's interesting here is that's if the New York Times like you, it's great, by the way, because then they're going to always put you in every list. You'll be in the top 10 of everything, or in the top 30 of everything. You'll be curated in, even if you don't deserve it. And I think when you see that Obama's getting cancelled by these platforms, you realize they're really not bringing value, even though they have all these friends, even though they've all these friends in high places. They shouldn't have got the contracts in the first place. Okay, we've come to the end of the show. We are, it's a very big week. Tomorrow is the opening night. Tomorrow, you're watching this, and in a few hours, we're basically going to be live on stage in New York. Please wish us well. We're really hoping that everything, happens exactly as we want it to happen. This is an incredibly important play that needs to be seen, particularly at this time. So thank you for all of your support. We really appreciate it.
Thanks. All the best.
Bye.
Bye.